It was a cold Friday evening in October. The wind was strong, and dry leaves flew in the air. Sarah looked out of her bedroom window. The sky was dark, and clouds covered the moon. She could hear the trees moving and the branches shaking. Sarah was 16 years old. She lived with her parents and her younger brother in a small town near the forest. Her best friend, Mia, lived next door. They often spent weekends together, watching movies or telling stories. That day, Mia had gone with her family to visit her grandmother in another city. Sarah was alone at home because her parents were attending a wedding. They told her they would come back after midnight. Her little brother was sleeping at a friend's house. "I'll be fine," Sarah said with a smile when her mom kissed her goodbye. "You have your phone, right?" her mom asked. "Yes, and I'll keep it with me." The house was quiet after they left. Sarah made some popcorn and sat on the couch. She turned on the TV and picked a funny movie to watch. But the wind outside got louder, and she started to feel a little nervous. The lights in the room flickered once, then twice. "Please don't go out," she said to the lights. Suddenly, everything went dark. The power was out. Sarah sat still for a moment. Her heart started to beat faster. She took her phone and turned on the flashlight. The house looked very different in the dim light. Shadows danced on the walls, and the wind howled louder. She checked her phone. No signal. The storm must have affected the tower. She walked to the window and looked outside. The street was empty. All the houses were dark. Even the streetlights were off. "I guess the whole area lost power," she whispered to herself. Sarah decided to go to the kitchen and get a candle. Her mom always kept some in the drawer. She found one and lit it. The warm light made her feel a little better. She sat back on the couch and hugged a pillow. The room was quiet, but the silence didn't feel normal. It felt heavy, like something was watching her. "Don't be silly," she said to herself. "It's just your imagination." But then, she heard a noise. A small knock, like someone was tapping on the window. She turned quickly and pointed her flashlight toward the sound. Nothing was there. "It's just a tree branch," she said, but her voice shook a little. Then she heard the knock again, but this time it was louder. And it wasn't coming from the window. It was coming from the back door. Sarah stood up slowly. Her legs felt weak. She held the flashlight tightly and walked toward the sound. "Hello," she said. "Is someone there?" No answer. She reached the back door and listened. Nothing. Just the wind and the sound of her own breathing. She locked the door again and moved away quickly. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. A message from her mom. "Everything okay?" Sarah replied quickly, "Yes. Power is out." A little scared. Her mom texted back, "Don't worry. We'll be home soon. Stay safe and lock all doors." Sarah went to check the front door, then all the windows. Everything was locked. She sat in her room, trying to read a book to calm herself. But then, she heard another sound. This time, it was coming from the attic. It was a soft creak, like someone was walking above her head. Her heart dropped. "No, no, no," she whispered. "There's nothing up there. Probably just the wind." But the sound came again. A slow, heavy step. Sarah knew no one else was home. She grabbed her phone and the candle and walked carefully to the attic door. It was at the end of a hallway. The door was closed, but the sound was louder now. She took a deep breath and put her hand on the doorknob. The attic. Sarah stood in front of the attic door. Her hand was on the cold doorknob. The sound above her continued, slow, soft steps, like someone walking with care. She didn't want to open the door. Every part of her body said no. But a small voice inside her said, "You have to know what it is." So she took a deep breath and turned the knob. The door opened with a loud creak. She pointed her flashlight up the wooden stairs. The attic was dark and dusty. Old boxes sat in corners. Some had clothes. Others had books, decorations, and old toys. Nothing moved. She climbed the stairs slowly, her legs shaking. Each step made a loud sound. When she reached the top, she stopped and looked around. "Is anyone here?" she asked. Silence. She walked carefully between the boxes, shining her light left and right. The wind outside was strong. She heard it hitting the roof. Then she saw it. A small window on the far wall was open. The wind had blown it wide, and the curtain was moving back and forth. That was the sound she heard. Not footsteps. Just the window and the curtain. Sarah let out a long breath. Her fear slowly melted. She walked over and closed the window tightly. She smiled a little. "I'm just being silly," she said. "There's nothing here." She turned and started to go back downstairs. But as she reached the stairs, she heard a different sound. A sound from below. It was the front door. Click. Sarah froze. That was the sound of the door unlocking. She knew she had locked it earlier. She turned off her flashlight and sat on the stairs, very still. The candle in her hand flickered. She listened carefully. There were footsteps downstairs. Not the wind. Not a branch. Real footsteps. Slow, careful steps. Someone was walking in the house. Sarah held her breath. Her heart was beating fast, so loud she thought the person downstairs might hear it. "Who is in my house?" She didn't move. She didn't even blink. The footsteps came closer. Now they were in the hallway. Sarah looked around the attic. There was nowhere to hide. She carefully put down the candle. The light danced on the walls. Then she moved behind a tall stack of boxes and crouched down, trying to stay quiet. She heard the stairs creak. One step. Then another. Someone was coming up. She covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. Then she saw it. A shadow appeared at the top of the stairs. It wasn't her parents. The figure stood there, looking around. They didn't speak. They just walked into the attic, slow and silent. Sarah stayed still behind the boxes. Her phone was in her pocket, but she was afraid to move. The figure walked past her hiding spot. They looked around, as if they were searching for something, or someone. Suddenly, Sarah's phone buzzed. The sound was soft, but in the quiet attic, it was loud enough. The figure turned sharply toward the boxes. Sarah's heart stopped. The person took a step forward. Then, another sound. A voice. "Sarah? Are you up here?" It was her mom. The lights came on. Sarah stood up quickly. The figure in the attic turned. It was her dad. "Dad," she shouted and ran to him. He hugged her tightly. "We're so sorry. The storm made traffic very bad. We came in quietly because we didn't want to scare you." Sarah was crying now, but from relief. "I thought someone broke in. The lights were out. I heard sounds. I thought." Her mom walked up the stairs and hugged her too. "Shoo. It's okay now. You were very brave." They went back downstairs together. The lights were back on, and the house felt warm again. Sarah sat on the couch between her parents. Her dad brought her some hot chocolate. "We used our spare key to come in. You were probably in the attic when we opened the door." Sarah nodded. "Yes, I was. I thought I heard something up there. But it was just the window." Her mom smiled. "It was a scary night. But you handled it well." Sarah gave a small smile. "I don't want to be home alone again for a while." They all laughed softly. The wind outside was still strong, but inside the house everything felt safe again. Or so they thought. Because in the attic, the small window creaked open once more, by itself. The truth. Sarah didn't sleep much that night. Even though her parents were home and the lights were back on, she kept thinking about the shadow in the attic, the footsteps, and the open window. The next morning, the sun was shining. The storm had passed. Birds were singing outside. The wind was gone. It almost felt like nothing strange had happened. Sarah came downstairs. Her mom was cooking breakfast, and her dad was reading the news on his phone. "Good morning," her mom said. "Did you sleep okay?" "Not really," Sarah said. "I kept thinking about last night." Her dad looked up. "You mean the noises and the attic?" Sarah nodded. "It still feels strange." "Are you sure you were the one in the attic?" "Yes," he said. "I came upstairs to check. The candlelight helped me find you." Sarah looked confused. "But I saw someone in the attic before the lights came back on." "Before you said anything." Her parents looked at each other. "Maybe it was just your imagination," her mom said gently. "You were scared, and it was dark. It's easy to see things that aren't really there." Sarah wanted to believe that. She really did. But something didn't feel right. Later that day, she decided to go back to the attic. Her parents were in the backyard cleaning up after the storm. She climbed the stairs slowly, just like she had the night before. The attic looked normal. Boxes, old toys, dusty books. The window was closed now. She checked the floor. Nothing strange. But then she saw something near one of the boxes. It was a shoe print. A single, muddy shoe print. Not hers. Too big for her. Her dad had worn clean shoes. She remembered he had taken off his boots at the front door. Sarah stared at the footprint. So, someone really was up here. Suddenly, something else caught her eye, a small piece of paper sticking out from under a box. She picked it up and unfolded it. It was old and yellow. There were words written in messy handwriting. "I see you watching. I live in the dark." Sarah's hands began to shake. She ran downstairs and showed it to her parents. Her dad looked serious now. "Where did you find this?" he asked. "In the attic. Near the boxes." Her mom looked scared. "What does this mean? Someone was in our house?" Sarah didn't answer. Her eyes were wide. That afternoon, her dad called the police. Officers came and checked the house, the attic, and the basement. They looked around the area, asked neighbors questions, and checked for signs of a break-in. After some time, one of the officers came back. "There are no signs of forced entry," he said. "But we did find something strange." He held up a photo. It showed a small space behind the wall in the attic, a crawl space. "We think someone may have been hiding in there," the officer said. "There are signs that someone was sleeping there. Blankets, food wrappers, and more footprints." Sarah's mom put a hand over her mouth. "How long has this person been in our house?" "We're not sure," the officer replied. "But it may have been a homeless person looking for shelter during the storm. Or someone else. We'll keep investigating." Sarah felt cold. Someone was living in the attic. While we were all here. For how long? That night, Sarah couldn't sleep again. Every creak, every soft sound made her jump. The next day, her parents decided to install a home security system. Cameras, motion lights, and stronger locks. Weeks passed. The police never found the person who had been hiding in the attic. But they said it was probably someone looking for warmth during the storm. Sarah tried to move on. She went back to school, saw her friends, and watched movies again. But sometimes, late at night, when the house was quiet and dark, she thought she heard footsteps above her room. She always checked. Always locked her door. Always kept a flashlight near her bed. Because now she knew. Sometimes, it's not your imagination. Sometimes, the scary things are real. And sometimes, you are not alone in the dark.